and thank you for joining us today. This presentation is about a topic that affects every workplace, every team, and every individual: stress and worker well-being. We all know work can be stressful. Deadlines, long hours, constant changing has become a common part of every job. But when the stress goes unmanaged, it can really mess with how an employee feels, how they perform, and how they can lead to serious problems in the future. It's problems for more than just the individual employee, but also for the overall success of the organization. So today, we're going to break it down: what worker well-being actually means, what causes stress at work, the warning signs, and why it matters no matter what the place or the job. So what do we mean when we say worker well-being? It's not just about physical health. It also includes mental and emotional health. It's about how people feel at work. It includes everything from how people feel physically to how they feel supported emotionally, to whether they find satisfaction and meaning in their job. And here's why it matters. When people feel good, they do better. Companies that focus on well-being often see important benefits: better morale, people are more positive and energized, more engagement, people are actually interested in their work, higher productivity, they get more done in less time, less absenteeism and turnover, people want to stay, a stronger, more positive workplace culture. When you take care of your people, they take care of the work. Now let's talk about stress, what causes it and how it shows up. Stress in the workplace can show up in many forms. Physically, it might appear as fatigue, headache, muscle tension. Emotionally, stressed employees may feel irritable, anxious, or depressed. Behavior-wise, you might see more people calling in sick, slacking off, or even getting into arguments. So what causes this stress? A few common things are heavy workloads, feeling unsure about your job, poor communication, lack of control. Unclear expectations, not knowing what to expect of you, can lead to constantly second guessing yourself and self doubt. And of course, a toxic work environment. Gossip, drama, negativity can all make it hard to stay positive and productive. Identifying the causes is the first step to fixing them. When these things are addressed, stress builds up quick. So, why is this such a big deal? To manage a successful organization, all the puzzle pieces need to fit. Stress doesn't hurt the individual, it affects the whole workplace. When people are stressed, productivity drops. It's hard to stay focused and get things done. Absenteeism go up and more people start looking for other jobs. Morale takes a hit. People feel less motivated and more negative. There's a higher chance of accidents or mistakes, especially when people are tired or overwhelmed. And over time, healthcare costs increase because stress can lead to real medical issues. Stress and work well-being are costly and closely connected. When employees are stressed and unsupported, it affects their health and their work, their entire organization. In short, ignoring stress can be incredibly costly. Stress and worker well-being has been an important topic for quite some time now. No matter the country or the organization someone works for, it will always be important. Thank you for your time. Now I'll pass you off to my colleague Kat, who has some interesting information on the topic.
Thanks, Lena. So after looking at all of our studies, I noticed one overall theme, and that was that stress had an impact on job performance and satisfaction. So our first study was a longitudinal study out of Canada and looked at corrections officers there. It gathered data from surveys, interviews, and other forms of measurement on mental health. It showed that, of course, they had higher levels of PTSD and depression and anxiety compared to the general public, but it specifically found a link between those who had experienced a traumatic event on the job and they dipped in performance, oftentimes had a negative view, and they were more likely to leave the industry for a less stressful job. Our next study looks at 196 Chinese employees from various industries and positions. And this was a self-reporting questionnaire to assess work stress and mental health and job performance. It was a correlational study that found that higher stress was tied to a worse mental health and a lower job performance. However, the study also found that organizations who provided more mental health resources saw less effects of that work-related stress. So our third study looked at those in the workplace under 30 years old. It reviewed existing studies and research on mental health of the young workers. It evaluated the studies across multiple countries using a risk bias assessment tool known as Robbins. The study found that millennials and Gen Z were more prone to job stress, correlating to lower performance and satisfaction. It found that poor working conditions harmed mental health, and negative aspects like low job control, workplace harassment, and poor psychosocial job quality are all linked to higher levels of depression and anxiety among the young workers. It also found that poor psychosocial quality degraded mental health, and as the number of adverse job conditions increased, that worsened employees' overall mental health. The study highlighted the commonality among organizational structures and how poor leadership can lead to unsafe working conditions that have high risk factors for these negative effects on the young workers. So we also chose to look at a case study, and here I want to highlight Salesforce, which is a global leader in customer relationship management, not just for innovation, but for how it supports the employee well-being and it manages job stress. So Salesforce was built on a strong culture around its core value of Ohana, which means family in Hawaiian. And this philosophy translates into flexible work options, generous wellness benefits, and a strong emphasis on mental health. Employees have access to wellness reimbursement programs, mindfulness zones in their offices, and even regular mental health days. They also actively use anonymous surveys to gauge employee stress and engagement, and leadership is trained to respond proactively. During the high stress periods like the pandemic, Salesforce gave extra time off and implemented programs to help workers manage burnout. They continuously have high employee satisfaction scores, low turnover, and consistent placement on the best places to work list. Salesforce shows that when an organization invests in the well-being, performance and loyalty follow. Thank you. Next, you'll hear from Raji.
Stress isn't just linear. It can be simplified into domains such as the individual, team, and organizational level. Stress at the individual level is often shaped by a career transition or role ambiguity. Career changes, whether positive or negative, can be disruptive. For example, being promoted may bring excitement, but also pressure to perform. On a different note, role ambiguity happens when employees are unclear about what's expected of them. Without well defined responsibilities or feedback, people may feel lost or overwhelmed, which lead to disengagement or even burnout. Teams can be either a buffer against stress or a major source of it. Common cause of stress is interpersonal conflict. This can be due to poor communication or clashing work styles. If not managed early, this conflict can create a toxic working environment. Another issue is the lack of team cohesion. When trust is low and collaboration is weak, employees may feel isolated, which increases stress and reduces performance. Creating a psychologically safe team where members feel heard and respected is essential for a healthy working environment. On a different note, organizational stress arises from a deeper and systemic issues, especially through culture and structure. A high pressure culture may reward long hours over results or discourage feedback. Over time, this creates burnouts and a high turnover. The structure of an organization, such as rigid hierarchies, can also stress employees, especially when they feel powerless to make decisions. Organization is the most difficult to change, but it can be the widest impact, making it a critical area for leadership to address. Organizational policies are not just administrative tools. They send powerful messages about what a company values. Communicating and collaborating with employees when making significant changes regarding company policies are very important because it affects each and every employee in the organization. For example, Rigid policies around sick leave, performance reviews, or scheduling can inadvertently create stress by punishing flexibility or overlooking personal circumstances. On the other hand, policies that encourage mental health days, flexible work, or employee assistance programs support wellness and reduce stress. The takeaway here is that policies should be designed not just to manage operations, but support the human beings who keep those operations running. So, how can organizations reduce stress at each of these levels? At the individual level, solutions include mentorship programs, mental health support, and clear onboarding that helps people understand their roles. And this way, employees already understand that they are supported in an individual level. At the team level, investing in team building, conflict resolution training, and supportive leadership help foster cooperation and trust. Again, interpersonal conflict is one of the main issues we discussed earlier. So, making sure to cover conflict resolution and having a supportive leadership really remove that stress at a team level. At the organizational level, however, it's important to align culture, structure, and policies with employees' well being. This means reevaluating workflows, promoting autonomy, and encouraging open dialogue. These aren't just nice to haves, they are essential for a resilient and productive workforce. Stress isn't avoidable, but it is manageable when individuals are supported, teams are collaborative, and organizations operate with empathy and clarity. The key to long term success is alignment. Every resolution at the individual and team levels must be backed by organizational support. That's how you build a resilient and high performing workplace. Thank you. Here our reference slide. I hope you enjoy our presentation.